time where we build the most badass Windows 98 machine ever conceived. Discovering the glorious origins of the PC Master Race. Take back the treasured times of the glorious 90s in this fucking monster of a computer. Refresh your memory of the old software you used in the most authentic setting possible.
In order to do that, you don't bother with a computer like this. What you're seeing here right now is a total YouTube fantasy using early 2000s technology to put 1998 computing under the lenses of rose-tinted glasses. For someone concerned about limited space and needing an all-in-one solution for running old software on real hardware, something like this could be a great option, but the CPU being used here was originally intended for servers and may have not been widely available when it was released in early 2002. Most people were stuck with the much less efficient net burst-based CPUs. A build like this is too perfect for any realistic budget, even a deep-pocketed one. In fact, any dream parts accumulated at the time may have been more likely paired with shoddy hardware or purchased as upgrades well after the period of a machine's peak relevance. If you really want to relive the good old days, you're going to have to make a ton of compromises, man. That beefy-ass Trinitron you've got right there. No! This is false. You don't have one. Those are for CAD programs. Instead, you're getting more of something like a cash register monitor. Yep, this is what shopping in the 90s was like. At least it has full color. Full tower Inwin Q500Ks. Looks nice, but you're not a 30-year-old single homeowner. At least cut it down to size. Socket 370? It's plausible, but most systems with this socket from 1999 came in these crap-ass OEM computers and didn't even have AGP slots in them. You'll probably just pick up something like this refurbished. A P2L97-S motherboard. Mainly so you can reuse your SCSI CD burner without wasting an expansion slot. This motherboard rules out any Duality-based CPU, let alone the Coppermine ones, because it can't supply the lower voltages they require. You might pick up a new Pentium 3 pertaining to the Coppermine core. It can be useful with newer software to come, but it will definitely be underclocked to somewhere around 300 MHz. 512 megabytes of RAM, what are you doing? Memory is expensive, and it's going to be impossible to explain to your parents that the computer needs more memory to run faster. 32 megabytes is all you get, straight from the factory. You're also going to have to part ways with that Voodoo 5 and that sound card. We're cutting corners here. You will have a Sang Labs ET4000AX and Sound Blaster 16 value, which are the only things that carry over from some 486 computer you traded into a nearby shop. The hard drive you're going to use carries over from whatever system previously ran Windows for Workgroups 3.11, which you will upgrade to Windows 98 on here. Windows 98 2nd Edition? That was a laughable attempt to save face from the disastrous gold release of Windows 98. It may be more stable, but it's still bloated as hell thanks to the IE shell still being there. And now retroactively called the 1st edition, this one is just awful. A vanilla installation regularly crashes to one degree or another, so much so that some vendors continue to pre-install the more stable Windows 95 OSR 2.5 for a while, even if its forced IE shell installation made it just as bloated. Too bad, you're getting Windows 98 FE. You could keep the power supply because late 90s power supplies were often so shitty that it would be too risky for me to demonstrate them on irreplaceable hardware today. So, now that you have a realistic machine here, it's time to power it on. To really get an insight into a truly authentic machine, you don't build one yourself. You pick one up from a thrift store or an eBay listing that may be way overpriced, where everyone basically forgot to wipe a hard drive full of tax returns and family photos. Please be courteous and wipe the hard drive if this is the case, cause identity theft is just not cool, dog. But wait! Aren't there some gems taken from the internet that may otherwise be impossible to find now? Take this metaled EPA logo from someone with pent-up political aggression, for example, or a wallpaper that's either someone's forever lost drawing they posted to a short-lived website, something derived from a popular thing in the late 90s, or both. At least half of computer users never figured out they need to upgrade their computer's memory so programs don't grind so badly. Such users accepted it as normal that it takes 5 minutes for the desktop to be ready to use after booting up, as if it was some Unix server from 1991. Except instead of loading a bunch of network services and expecting it to be used by multiple users, instead it's busy loading so many system tray programs. I had to consciously load such programs on here like it was a fine art. How did so many people do it automatically? Funny enough, an ISA video card may be quite acceptable for very simple applications, you know, the usual office stuff. Even so, 1 megabyte of video RAM is severely limiting. At most, you'll get 640 by 40 in 16-bit color as seen here, or up to 1024 by 768 in 256 color mode, with the higher resolutions potentially forcing interlaced refresh rates. If you want to run more advanced software that's naturally reliant on a good video card, well, see for yourself. Yeah, even if you want to use a Pentium 3, the ISA bus really hasn't changed much since 1984, so even picking up an S-Ray Trio 64 second-hand would have done wonders here. ISA video cards are highly unusual for any slot 1 build, let alone even a socket 5 or 7 one. I just made you use one to watch you suffer. But even with a PCI or AGP video card, Windows 98 is still a nasty weight on this system. This is exactly what some of my relatives, as well as millions of other PC users, genuinely lived through as late as the early 2000s, if not even later than that. This is just the bulk of them I'm talking about here, early 2000s. If you didn't have a tech guy in your family or other close circle, you either had to shell out a ton of cash to have someone at a store put a stick inside a slot, or you were screwed. Now, I know you're really wanting to get to the juicy gaming stuff, so here it is. You can play Quake 2 under the condition that you do not use Freelook. The mouse is to be used for moving your guy around. You got me? Great! Let's rumble! Wasn't such a good idea. To much delight, there happens to be a Voodoo 2 installed. Oh, so that's where the rest of the computer budget went? Quake 2 is free flying now with the help of the PCI bus and a lot of CPU offloading. Nice! If only graphics outside of a 3D game could keep repainting themselves so rapidly. Don't forget, you still have 32 megabytes of RAM though, so the game will stall on certain things, particularly loading sound effects. After backing up the hard disk to a QIC file so as to be able to restore the horrors of the system at a later time, I've decided to go ahead and install a project I've been working on called Red Toast. This is a free alternative I made in contrast to the outdated 98 Lite that removes all IE related stuff from the setup CD outright while integrating more useful things like DirectX 7, USB flash drive support, and various hardware related bug fixes. Can this save this computer from a hideous sack of bloat? As a matter of fact, it does miracles! Yeah, at least some of them. It's not so whipping fast as I'd like it to be given what all is bogging the system down, such as the deliberately low specs and the excessive background tasks. But regressing to the 95 shell shaves off a ton of wasted resources, thereby making the system considerably faster to work with. Imagine an operating system upgrade actually making your computer faster. Also, Red Toast supports flash drives out of the box. It's currently in an alpha state and I'm not ready to get back to developing it, but I would very much be glad to see what you can do with it. You can download it using the link in the description. Old hardware and software can be a double-edged sword. Computers were underpowered all too often, and newer software always had the nerve to cripple them that much harder every year. But if you were to throw 256 megabytes of RAM into this system, it would be fully unconstrained, even with the IE shell. Unfortunately, that and a better video card will still be demoralized by yet another later operating system, one that is such a fucking over-glorifying mess that introduced many of the worst annoyances that persist in Windows to this. Regardless, you can't deny that there are wealthy princes out there who would gladly spend so much money on a fully pimped out computer in 1998. No single Windows 98 machine is truly correct, as x86 computers are hardly the same as each other unless they're purchased in bulk. Old computers did suck in a lot of ways, but there's plenty you can learn from them, and in other ways they are so much better than modern hardware and software. Windows 10 is the worst thing ever, today's DRM is even worse than LPT dongles for 3DS Max, and so on. It will be up to you to decide if you want to relive the pains of the 90s alongside its glory, or just the glory on its own, using early 2000s stuff to kind of cheat your way through it. Just don't forget how underpowered a lot of machines were back in the day.